Okay, it's the end of the session. I'm here with my buddy Maggie, and this is Maggie's Roadmap to Success. And so basically, we started off talking about exercise and mental stimulation. Dogs her size probably need to sleep about 13 to 16 hours a day. Yes. And the Guardian was taking her for a run, which is awesome, about 5 days a week. But dogs, because they sleep so much, they recharge their batteries. They need to exercise every couple hours. So I'd like the Guardian to get a snuffle mat, a Omega Paw treat ball, a lick mat, a Kong. For Kong, black Kongs are stronger than red. And also do some scent games. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed her out of the snuffle mat. Now, when you put the food in the snuffle mat, make sure you work it in there and call her over to eat it. If she comes and sniffs it, as soon as she walks away, pick up that snuffle mat and put it away. Maggie's going to be able to eat when we provide her food. As soon as she walks away, the kitchen is closed until the next meal. If we leave food out all the time, it kind of loses some of its value. Eating out a snuffle mat is kind of akin to walking. It's exercise. They're working for their food. It's beneficial. Let me see. Then I'd like to see her getting some scent games. So scent games, you can do something really simple, like I would just say, hunt. So I just throw one treat out and say hunt as I throw it. She goes over and gets it, and she gets reinforced. There's a game called Cookie in the Corner I like to use to introduce this, but I'll just go ahead and do it here. So now I have two treats. Hunt. Yes. Yes. And I'm running low on treats. I'm going to split these in half. I have 4 treats. Hunt. Yes. 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 So now we're teaching her to go over there and look, and I'm saying hunt. So eventually when she's outside, you could leave like 5 or 6 treats over here, and she comes in the room and you say hunt. She's like, oh my God, there's treats, and she's using her nose. That's very draining. I'd also like to see her going for a walk at least once a day in addition to the run. Right there, she's going back to doing it already. Because there's been some tension between, she's kind of nipped at a couple of the boys unexpectedly, and we don't know exactly what, and without seeing it and knowing the greater context, yes, it's hard to know, but because she's only nipped and she's never broken skin or really bit, those are all good indicators that she's not doing it aggressively. We don't know exactly what it is, but what we want to do is we want to create positive associations. And I'm going to talk about those in a sec, but let me go through kind of the fundamentals of the session. So I'd like every day she eats out of lick mats, the snuffle mats twice a day. She goes for at least 1 walk a day. We use an Omega Paw treat ball for maybe a snack in the middle of the day or when kids or people are here. We're going to give her, on the walk, we're going to let her sniff as much as she wants to. If she likes to play tug of war, does she like to play tug? Some dogs like to play tug. If she does, that's a good way to burn energy. I have a video on that. If you want to do that, let me know. If she likes to play fetch, it's another way to burn energy. So those are physical exercise. Yes. We could also use a lick mat. She has to lick peanut butter off the lick mat. That's a way of, that's mental exercise. Cookie in the corner, or you can Google scent games. It's hiding treats. There's all sorts of different things you can do. That's using her nose. It's physically draining. We can also give her the Kong filled with peanut butter. And the Kong and the lick mat, after she's used it a couple times, you can put those in the freezer so that it makes it harder for them to come out. So now if she has, just tell her SIT.
Sit.
There you go. The idea is we'd like her to get some mental exercise or some physical exercise or mental stimulation every about 2 to 4 hours. And if we're going to have kids come over, if we're going to have a visitor or a construction or whatever it is, exercising her before they come in, and then giving her about at least 10 minutes to recover before the next thing happens. So right now, I would tell her to SIT again, try to avoid pushing. Okay. So right there, she's asking for attention. The Guardian asked to redirect her to sit. She's rewarding her for this sit, but then as soon as the petting stopped, she came back and wanted more. So this is an indication to me of a dog that needs some exercise. So I would take it out for a walk, or take her outside and throw some shredded cheese out in a little section of the lawn, so she's got to use her nose to find that. Do some scent games, get a lick mat, give her the Kong filled with peanut butter. Do some training, walk around the house, tell her to sit down, and marking. So all these things, we're redirecting her attention away from the things we want. If she jumps up on us, we can either freeze and become boring, and then when she gets down, we would tell her to do something we want, like sit her down, and then say yes, and then reward that. But if we do that and she goes back to the behavior again, we would want to, again, give her some of that exercise so when she comes back inside, she goes to her dog bed and relaxes as opposed to the other. All right, we also talked about rules and structure. The video above talks about, about going in, staying out in the kitchen when we're feeding her food. There's also, when we're eating snacks, if we're eating a snack on the table here, I'd recommend, or at the couch here, I'd recommend she has to be on her dog bed. We're also going to do pre-max. Pre-max means a less desirable behavior earns me a more desirable behavior. So she wants to go outside, go to the door and say, sit. then I would open the door because she sat within 2 seconds. I'm only going to say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So if she says sit, I open the door and then she gets what she wants. If she doesn't sit, I sit down and read something on my phone, watch a little TV, make out with the husband, whatever you want to do, and wait 1 minute and then go back to the door and tell her again to sit. If she doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes. Next time I walk away for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. This I don't want, so I'm just ignoring it. I'm not engaging, not grasping her paw. I'm just ignoring it completely and continuing doing what I'm doing. And then when she does that, I can say sit and reward her for doing what I want. So for the Premax, before going for the walk, sit. And then only after you sit will I attach the leash. So I might say sit, and when she sits, then I pick up the leash. Or if I pick up the leash and she gets excited, I would say sit again. If she doesn't sit, I put the leash down and go back to doing what I'm doing. Remember, this is a good activity to do when you're not planning on going for a walk, so that if she doesn't sit, you just put it down and you go on to your next thing. There's no punishment or correction, but she doesn't get what she wants. She doesn't get that walk. After a while, you say sit, she sits, you pick up the leash. She gets up, you say sit again. If she sits, then you attach it. And then as soon as you attach it, give her a treat. Remember, every time she does something you want, like right here, yes, say your marker word and reward her. We need her to understand the things that she can do to get our attention. Remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. So she paws at me and I say no, or I push her down. That worked, that got attention, even though it's not what we want. Yes, this is celebrating. So every time that she does a behavior that you want, I want you to, within 2 seconds of doing it, say yes, and then pet her. So that comes for sits, laying down, coming to you, sitting at the door, going to the dog bed, vacating the kitchen, drinking water. You can do it for anything you want. I taught this dog Quest to grumble. Every time he grumbled, I said, yes, I gave him a treat. Now he comes up and he goes, roar, 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 roar. It's funny. Yeah, you didn't like that one, huh? But again, it's just the more that we reward our dogs for the things that we want, the more they will offer those behaviors for us. Most of the time we give dogs attention for the wrong things. Sit. Yes. So she was barking, probably because I fired her up, and she hasn't had exercise in 3 hours we've been doing the session. So I gave her something else to do, and I'm rewarding her for doing it. Sit. Little hand lure. And again, so if she keeps on doing it, then take her out and get her some exercise, some stimulation. So look for some rules and structure, not arbitrary. Remember, rules are not mean, but rules to help her see you enforcing them and to help her practice some self-restraint and self-control. We also went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if she comes up to you and nudges you for attention, which she does a lot. If we do what she wants, then she thinks she gets to tell us what to do, and that means that we're kind of the same level as peers. So instead, leaders tell, followers ask. Next time she nudges you, tell her to sit. If she's already sitting here, tell her to sit here or here or here, or to lie down. Don't tell her to shake. If she does what you want, within 2 seconds, you pet her. You say yes and then pet her. If she doesn't do it within 2 seconds, lean back, disengage. So you just go back to watching TV, doing whatever you want, whatever else you were doing before. Playing hard to get works great for dating, it works great for dog training. So if she does what you want, she gets rewarded. If she does anything else, nothing happens. After a while, she'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. And when she does that, you bet your butt, you better sit her. You better pet her. Now use the watchword of paycheck if you suspect someone's petting her without a purpose. So if she's over here and I'm petting her, and somebody comes in the room and says paycheck, they might suspect I forgot to ask her to sit because she's standing, and I'm petting her anyway. So remember, petting is almost how we say thank you. So in this house, we're not going to pet her unless she does something to earn it, so we can say thank you by petting her. And that motivates her to want to do it. So if somebody comes in and I'm petting her, they stand up, and she's standing up, they say paycheck, I would stop petting her, and I would tell her to sit. If she sits, I would say yes and pet her. And I would say, actually, when you came in the room, she stood up and I continued petting her, but thank you, I do forget to pet without a purpose. This will increase her respect for you as leader. This will boost her self-esteem because she's earning her attention. This helps her practice basic obedience. It also makes your pets more valuable because you're not giving them away for no reason. Celebrating, like I mentioned earlier, passive training, or some trainers call it capturing, is rewarding her within 2 seconds of when she does the things that you want. So every time she comes to you, yes, and pet her. Every time she sits down, yes, and pet her. Lays down, yes, and pet her. If you give her a treat, that's even better, but petting is fine as well. And remember to say celebrate to each other. And if somebody says celebrate to me, I stop what I'm doing and say yes, and I just turn and pet her immediately because I've already missed my window. Now, I'd like the kids, we went over a marking, an exercise that I'm going to talk off camera to the Guardian, because by the time you see this, you should have already done this. So about 20 treats, walk around the house with each one of the kids, and just all they have to do is just say yes and give her the treat, walk to the next room, yes, and give her the treat. You only have to do that, by the time you watch this video, you should be done with that. So make sure you do that once again tonight, like 3 or 4 times tomorrow, and you'll be done with that exercise. The other thing I'd like the guardians to do is I'd like the kids to have and if you want to get, this is the mini treat pouch from PetSafe, and I like it because it'll open up and stay open when I want it, and I close it, and nothing's going to come out of it. I can clip it on my leggings. Well, I don't wear leggings, but I can clip it to whatever I want, and so the kids can carry them, and they're not in their pockets. If they're like me, they're probably going to leave a treat in their pants and leave it on the floor. She might come and dig and rip our pants open. It's not what we want. So if you have it here, it's easy to access. And so what I would like the kids to do is grab one of these with a bunch of treats and walk around the rooms and say, sit, yes, treat. Walk in the next room, down, yes, treat. Just walk around the house, do that for about 20, 25 treats. I'd like to see each one of the kids doing that at least twice a day. So for a week. So if you're doing that, now the dog is just practicing listening to the kids and being rewarded for doing so. So we're going to cause her to want to do that stuff more and more often. It's going to engender more respect for the kids, more practice at listening to kids, appropriate boundaries. Now, it's important for the kids to not let her come up and take treats out of her mouth. That's that it's your choice game. Now, the it's your choice, if the dog's face is here, it's your choice is horizontal. There's no vertical movement. If you're holding it, if she's jumping, you're probably holding it too high. You want to hold it nose level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the dog here, I'm going to have my treats here. So I put my hand over here at the dog's nose level, and I open my hand. As soon as she looks at it, I say yes, and I use this hand, take the treat out and give it to her. Then I close my hand, I move it 1 inch closer. When she looks at it, I say yes, and I open it and give her that treat and keep on doing that. It might take a couple days, but eventually you should be able to get to the point where you're like right here in front of her nose and open it up, and she just looks at it, and you say yes, and then give her that treat. Remember, we're not making her come to get it. She doesn't have to get it. She just sits there and gets the treat. Now, if she goes for it, then we're going to close our hand. We don't want to do that a lot, though. So she goes for it. Take note of how your distance was. And if it was 9 inches, which seemed to be about her range, then start stopping at 10 inches and do that with all 12 treats, stopping at 10 inches, maybe once or twice, and then going to 9 inches, 8 inches, and so on. Now, when you're doing that, make sure you practice this in all exercises in different rooms. Do it with you standing, with her sitting, sitting on the couch, on the landing, upstairs, the daughter's room, and all over the place. Dogs need a lot of variety in order to generalize something. Let me see. Also, for greetings, we met her, and it was a great greeting. We set her up for success. I call it greeting protocol 1 for us. So what I'd like you to do is get her used to this. So every once in a while, leave a trail of treats from your front door going down your driveway and to the place that we met you at. And we get to the end, just put a small towel of treats or put some cheese in the grass, shredded cheese in the grass, so she's sniffing the grass. That's a wonderful thing to do. So do that every once in a while. And then when guests come over, anytime the kids bring somebody over, whatever it is, have them meet in the same way. Have them sitting there. I know it's not convenient, but have your neighbors and friends and people, and especially kids that come over, make that part of especially the kids, part of the ritual. You're out there supervising, you're bringing the dog on a leash. The treats put her in a good mood. She's getting those treats at first about every 10 inches, 12 inches, then a little bit further. And after a while, you can increase the distance, maybe 2 feet between treat and so on and so forth. But when they get to the person she's approaching from their side. The person should be on the curb facing across the street. She comes up and she sniffs them. Sniffing is appropriate for dogs. So as soon as she gets done sniffing them, that person should have some treats. And if they turn to face her, that can be confrontational. If they stand up, that can be confrontational. Eye contact can be a problem. So she gets done sniffing. They should hold out their palm flat with one treat and let her lick it off. Put another treat. This time hold it a little bit closer. She's got to walk towards them. And then hold it over here. So the idea is just getting her to come. Now, if she ever gets stiff or her mouth closes, goes from this to a close, she gets stiff, her tail gets stiff, her tail's tucked, she's doing the leg way out behind, that's an indication she's not comfortable. So don't push it at that point. Then I might just drop a treat, let her get it and walk away, drop another treat, let her, and eventually she'll come up and she'll be happy to get that treat and she'll stay there lingering. That's what we're looking for. Now, the guardians, because there was a nip, have really separated the kids from her and haven't let them interact. And the problem with that, it's good for maintenance, but the problem with that is the last memory engram that the dog has is the brightest memory they have. So that's what she's remembering is that last incident. So if there's ever a negative incident, separate them, make sure everybody's safe, and then immediately take them for a walk. I guess I didn't finish the greeting. So all your guests, and arrange to try to do that, where have guests come over once a day for a week and meet with that greeting. So as soon as they meet, they give her a couple treats. Then before they get up, they should take a couple treats and throw a couple treats about 3 feet away so she gets up and moves away. The guest stands up. Then you guys walk to the corner, cross the street, walk back, and then walk into the house. After you've done that with somebody once or twice, when you get to the corner stop sign, you might hand them the leash if you feel comfortable. And then when they're coming back, they stop every once in a while. Sit, she sits, yes, give her a treat. Take a more steps, stop, sit, yes, treat. So she's practicing listening to them. I'd also like the lick mats and the Kongs, and getting bully sticks and cow kneecaps and ears and good chewable edibles things, dog edibles, from the Green Spot. Every time you have a guest come over, they meet outside, they do this little interaction, then they come over and then they tell her to sit, she sits, and they give her the bully stick, she goes over her dog beds and gets a treat, and then you get to talk with your guest, or the kid goes to go and play. So we're meeting in an environment that gives me a lot of distractions. We're going for a walk that's good for dogs. Dogs enjoy the activity. They got all these treats, and they come in and they get a lick mat or something else. And I'd like to, anybody that you're not comfortable having her in with, I would like her to get a lick mat with peanut butter, or a Kong with peanut butter, or a chewable, so that she's in the room with them practicing doing something else in a positive way. We're building those positive associations. That's why I'd like the boys to be, and the girls, to be going for a walk with her every day. It doesn't have to be a marathon walk, just like 10 or 15 minutes. Even 5 minutes if you're in a pinch. But getting out of the house and moving and having those kids with the dog will be paid big, big dividends. The more you do that, the more comfortable she's going to be. Eventually, can we get a guest over here today? I want to get my bully stick. Who's going to come and visit us today? We're building those positive associations. Now, for the kids, we talked a little bit about dog consent. Because the guardians are a little bit apprehensive, I would recommend that if the kids want to pet the dog, they ask her to come to them. So they say, come. Now, what I like to do is I like to hold my hand like this, and I curl it up a little bit so you can't tell there's nothing in my hand. So what I would do is say, Maggie, come. She's asleep on the floor. So I can make a kissing sound like this. She opened her eyes, and then I lower my hand, and I'm curling my fingers up. And to get her to sit, I'm going to rock it over her head. As soon as she sits, I say yes, and I pet her from this hand, and don't show her that I don't have anything in this hand. Don't fool her too often. Usually when I do that, I like to have a treat in my hand. So I can go like this. Yes. Then I let her lick it, and I tickle her under her chin. Remember to pet her under her chin, on her chest, or on her shoulders. Try to avoid reaching over her head. But if the kids have these treats with them, and they're going around the house and having her practice listening to them, she's going to be practiced at doing that. And that's going to, I think, eliminate a lot of those problems. And now, one of the questions I asked the guardians is, what is her motivation to listen to them? And I think for her, a lot of it was misbehaving, because that was the most consistent and fastest and most accurate way to get attention. So the more we celebrate and pet with a purpose and practice with these training and the exercises we went over, that's the things that she's going to do. She's really a lovely dog. And now that she knows what to do, and the guardians know the things that they're doing that might be contributing to it, and they can stop doing those things, we're going to work on both angles and really going to make a lot of progress. That's great. So look at that. She's getting petted, and she threw her nose up in the air because she's feeling good.
And that's okay. Like if she does approach me, and I can pet. I don't have to always.
You can. You absolutely can. Now for the boys, I would probably have them tell her to sit.
Okay.
And if she doesn't want to sit, that can be an indication she doesn't feel comfortable. Never be like, you're defiant. Sit, sit, sit. If I'm about to get mugged, I'm not going to sit down. So if she doesn't want to sit, in this case, I think part of it might be a little bit more of a motivation issue. But once you get past that, it shouldn't take long within a week of the kids walking around the house telling her sit downs or whatever. If she says sit, she doesn't want to sit, or she moves a couple feet away from and sits for the person, she's saying, I'm not comfortable sitting that close to the person. When they sit, they put themselves at a disadvantage. So if the dog doesn't want to sit, I don't look at that as disobedient. I look at that as an indicator that the dog maybe isn't comfortable. And then I would incorporate some treats or whatever it is. Now, if the dog is ever too close to somebody, they can also throw a treat. Hey, Maggie. So let's say she's here and she gets stiff and the guardians are uncomfortable and you have some treats. You can throw some treats over there. What happened? She just ran away. And so that's why, careful of that cactus. But that's why I'd like to have Claire come back and work on that relaxation protocol, because that's something that everybody in the house could do, and I think would be really, really beneficial, because it's great practice in a lot of the exercises. And Claire could also go over the leave it exercise. I showed you the baby step of that one, but I would like to have her come back and maybe go over the full bore of the leave it exercise and teach her a leave it cue. So if she starts sniffing in the trash, we say leave it, she comes over to us, because if I leave it alone, you're going to hook me up. And I'm happy to leave it alone. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you want me to cover?
Just remind me about, so we'll practice throwing the treats over the fence, but so what if, yes, you don't see anybody walking by, she's out there barking, how do I get her to stop?
Well, so the guardian were asking if, because they have a fence in the backyard, they're kind of buttressing a busy walking path. And so sometimes she goes over and barks, and that's probably at this point a little bit of a habit. So she might hear a sound and not sure know exactly where it is, but it's usually been over there, so that's where I'm going to go. So part of that might be a little bit of habit. One of the things you can do for that is, again, have the kids walking by and just making a noise, and they just throw a treat up. and throw another treat up as they're passing by the fence. So when people pass by, she thinks it's a good thing as opposed to barking at them. It's a positive thing. Now, if she barks at the door and some other stuff like that, there's a counter conditioning exercise we can do that would be a little bit more in depth. We didn't have a chance to get into in this session because we went over marker words and everything else. But if that's something you guys want to work on, we can certainly do that. We just have to, what we want to do when a dog fails is we want to recreate that situation where we control all of the elements. So we can, if she barks, we have the person stop or move her further away and then reset the exercise. You can't do that if it's just kids running by on a big wheel. So a lot of us, when we have dogs, instead of actually creating this training scenario, we try to train them in the moment. But we don't learn to drive our car on the interstate the busiest weekend of the year. We learn to drive our car in a parking lot. We probably watch our parents and they take driver's ed. We have level and we level ourselves up and get closer and closer to the situation. And that's the best way to train a dog, but a lot of us, we just see an adult dog, we're like, we have expectation. You just should know not to get in the trash. Not for a dog, that seems like a normal thing to do. Anything else? Okay. Not quite yet. Come here. Sit. Well, this handsome girl is Maggie, and I'm David, and this is Maggie's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.